These are the 7 habits I had to quit to become a millionaire. I used to think that becoming a millionaire was all about the habits that you're supposed to start. You know the drill. Wake up at 4 a.m., take an ice cold shower, journal for an hour, all of it. I tried everything. I crammed my days with more tasks, more goals, more pressure. And for years, I got absolutely nowhere. I was busy, sure, but I wasn't getting wealthy. I was just getting tired and cold. Those cold plunges are no joke. So, I'm going to break down the 7 habits I had to actually quit to start my own path towards becoming a millionaire. And I'm going to share exactly what they were and how I got rid of them so you can do the same. These aren't just financial tips, these are the deep seated habits that, once you cut them out, clear the path for your own success. If this is something you're into, hit the like and subscribe button and keep watching. The very first habit I had to destroy, and honestly, maybe the most important one, was constantly worrying about what other people think. For years, every decision was filtered through this lens of perception. Would this look successful? Would my family approve? My friends think I'm getting ahead of myself. This fear of judgment kept me playing small. It stopped me from taking bold risks because I was terrified of what people would say if I failed or even if I succeeded. This habit is a silent killer of dreams. It keeps you in a job that you hate because it's stable and looks good on paper, but it makes you buy things you can't afford to project an image of wealth you don't actually have. What's that old saying? We buy things we don't need with money we don't have to impress people we don't like. That was me. I was so caught up in looking successful that I was failing at the actual mechanics of it. So, this shift happened when I finally got a simple truth through my head. The people whose opinions I was so worried about, they weren't paying my bills, and they sure weren't going to fund my retirement. Their judgment was a cage I was willingly locking myself into every single day. So I just stopped. I stopped asking for permission. I stopped polling friends and family for their approval. I started a side hustle my peers thought was weird. I said no to expensive group dinners and vacations, even if it meant feeling left out for a bit. It was uncomfortable at first, for sure, but with every decision I made based on my own goals, the fear of judgment lost its power, swapped for the need of everyone else's approval for my own internal compass. Killing this one habit freed up a crazy amount of mental and emotional energy that I could finally pour into what mattered, building my future. All right. So the second habit I had to kill was a tough one. I had to look in the mirror and stop being a victim and stop making excuses. This is such a subtle poison because it feels like you're just explaining your situation, but what you're really doing is giving away all your power. I used to have all of the excuses. The economy was bad. My boss didn't get me. I didn't have the right connections or enough startup money. My failures were always somebody else's fault. That victim mentality is the ultimate roadblock to wealth because it convinces you that success is out of your control. But wealthy people don't blame the world for their failures. They take total responsibility for everything. They get that while they can't control every single thing that happens, they can always control their response and their reaction. My turning point came after a business idea completely flopped. My first instinct was to blame the market, my partner, lack of funding, anything but me. I was complaining to a mentor, looking for sympathy, and instead, she just looked at me and said, "Okay, so it wasn't a failure. It was a learning opportunity. What did you learn?" It was a simple question, but it hit me like a ton of bricks. I'd been so focused on everything happening to me that I never looked at my own mistakes or my own lack of effort. From that day on, I adopted a mantra of extreme ownership. Okay, so the third toxic habit I had to completely drop was the endless, mindless consumption of trivial entertainment. I'm talking about hours spent scrolling through social media, binge watching entire seasons of shows I wouldn't even remember a week later, and then just falling down a rabbit hole of celebrity gossip and online outrage. We've all been there. My evenings and weekends were just vanishing into a black hole of digital noise. Here's the thing about this habit: it feels harmless. You're just relaxing, right? But the real cost isn't the time you lose, it's the focus and mental energy that it steals from you. Distraction is expensive. And while I passively watching content, other people were out there actively building skills, businesses, networks. Your focus is one of your most valuable currencies, and successful people protect it like a hawk. The change for me started with a simple time audit. For 1 week, I tracked where my time was actually going, and the results were horrifying. I was spending over 20 hours a week on things that added zero value to my life. That's a part time job, just gone. It was a massive wake up call. I realized my free time wasn't free, it was an asset, and I was completely wasting it. So I had to make a drastic change. I deleted the social media apps that were my biggest time sucks. I canceled streaming services I didn't absolutely love. I replaced my evening scroll with a simple commitment: read 10 pages of a book every single night. I swapped binge watching for online courses on investing. I swapped the top 40 playlist to financial podcasts. It wasn't about eliminating relaxation, it was about choosing to be intentional with it. Instead of numbing my brain, I wanted to engage it. That shift from killing time to investing time was profound. I found 20 hours a week, and that became the exact thing I used to build the skills and knowledge that made me my first million. Okay, so this next one is a trap that keeps millions of people broke no matter how much money they make. The fourth habit I killed was impulsive, status driven spending. This is the habit of buying things to signal a certain level of success. It's the new car on a massive loan the second you get a raise. It's the designer clothes on a credit card. It's the constant need to have the latest phone. It's lifestyle inflation where your spending rises just as fast or faster than your income. And I was so guilty of this. Every time I got a pay bump, my first thought wasn't, how much more can I invest? But what can I upgrade? I saw money as a tool for instant gratification, not long term freedom. I was trying to look rich instead of actually becoming rich. True wealthy people understand you don't build wealth by showing it off, but by quietly accumulating it. The cure for this was a fundamental mindset shift about what money is for. I stopped seeing it as a way to buy things and started seeing it as a tool to buy freedom. Every dollar I spend on something that loses value, like a fancy car, was a dollar that could have been working for me in investing, compounding, and growing 24/7. To break the habit, I set two hard rules for myself. First, a mandatory 72-hour waiting period for any non essential purchases over $100. This simple delay killed the impulse and let me think logically instead of emotionally. 9 times out of 10, I realized I didn't really want or need the item. Second, I stopped trying to keep up with the Joneses. I had this realization that the Joneses are probably broke. I started taking pride in my savings rate, not my new stuff. And to be completely honest, when I wore the designer labels, nobody thought I was rich. When I bought a house and was able to quit my job, that's when people started taking notice. That's when they were actually impressed. So we're just over halfway through. And if any of this is hitting home for you, do me a favor and hit that like button. It really does help the video reach more people who might need to hear this. And if you're serious about killing the habits that are holding you back, make sure you subscribe because this is the kind of practical, no fluff advice we talk about here every week. So, the fifth habit I had to kill was when I never connected to my finances until the lack of it brought me to a breaking point. I stopped neglecting my physical and mental health. Back in the hustle culture phase, I wore exhaustion like a badge of honor. I sacrificed sleep for work. I survived on caffeine and takeout and told myself I never had the time to exercise. I thought I was being productive, but I was just systematically destroying my most important asset: my own energy.
You can have one of the best financial plans on the planet, but if you're too burnt out, sick, or just mentally foggy to execute it, it's completely worthless. Health fuels wealth. Successful people don't see sleep and exercise as luxuries, they see them as critical investments in their own performance. A sharp mind and healthy body are what help give you the resilience to build wealth. So, I stopped treating my health as an afterthought. I made 7 to 8 hours of sleep a non negotiable. I started scheduling my workouts into my calendar just like a business meeting. Even just 30 minutes of moving was enough to boost my energy and clear my head. I stopped eating junk food that led to energy crashes and brain fog. The change was almost immediate. My focus sharpened, my stress dropped, and my ability to handle challenges skyrocketed. Okay, so the sixth habit I killed: aimless drifting and vague goal setting. The sixth habit I had to kill was the habit of living in a state of someday. I called it dreaming, but what it really was drifting. I had these fuzzy ideas of what I wanted, like, I want to be rich someday. I want to have my own business someday. But someday isn't a day of the week, and a wish is not a plan. This passive approach is a recipe for stagnation. It feels safe because there's no real target, so you can't really fail. But it also means that you can't really succeed. Successful people don't just have dreams, they have concrete, detailed goals. They don't just wish for a better future, they script it. I scripted out my ideal life in painful detail. That exercise changed everything. My vague wish became a clear target. With a destination in mind, I could finally work backward and draw the map. That $1 million goal got broken down into yearly, monthly, and weekly targets. Have passive income became invest $1,000 in a dividend stock every month. Suddenly, my daily actions had a purpose. Having a clear, written down plan eliminates decision fatigue because you always know what the next step is. Okay, so the seventh habit I killed: staying in my comfort zone. The final habit I had to kill, the one that really unlocked exponential growth, was staying planted in my comfort zone. My comfort zone was safe, predictable, and completely stagnant. It was doing work I already knew how to do, talking to people I already knew, and avoiding anything that felt like a risk. The problem is, nothing great ever grows in your comfort zone. Success is found in uncertainty and discomfort. It demands taking calculated risks, learning new skills, and being willing to look like a total beginner again. I was playing it safe and I was getting exactly nowhere. Breaking this habit, it wasn't just one single event, it was a continuous practice of intentionally choosing to be uncomfortable. It started small. I forced myself to go to networking events where I knew absolutely no one. And it was terrifying, but those events led to partnerships I never would have found otherwise. But I realized the real risk wasn't trying and failing. The real risk was never trying at all and guaranteeing a life of standing still. I learned to replace the desire for comfort with a desire for growth. And I started to see challenges not as threats, but as opportunities. If an opportunity doesn't scare you a little, it probably isn't big enough. So, those are the 7 habits I had to kill to become a millionaire. It wasn't finding some magic productivity hack or secret investment. It was about doing the deep internal work of subtraction. The journey to your first million or any big goal starts with this. So, I'll ask you, what is the one habit you know you need to kill? You don't have to tackle all 7 at once, just pick one. Name it, commit to stopping it, and watch how much lighter you feel and how much faster you move toward the life that you actually want. Thanks for watching, and if this helped you at all, please give it a thumbs up and share it with someone who needs to hear this. Give me a like and subscribe, and now go take action.